We are so excited to be a part of the African American Network, y'all. And again, they have a local feel with a global reach. So make sure you check us out. And again, as we always say, stay creative. Now let's check out the next episode.
Or good afternoon. What coast are you on?
I'm here in LA. How are you? Where are you?
Oh, okay. Good morning. I'm at WeWork in Culver City.
Come on. Shout out to WeWork. Come on. What's up? Well, first and foremost. Yeah, listen, I was going to say, you ready for me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me great?
I can.
I can hear you fantastic because guess what? We're already recording, kid. I got you.
Okay.
Listen, this is how we do on the Jamir Smith Show. Listen, no edits, no cleanups, no nothing. So first and foremost, everybody, I'm so excited about this interview because you have two of the busiest men in Hollywood, on the East Coast, in D.C. First and foremost, y'all, Donnie Hugh is in the building. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you. I just got some coffee, so I'm energized. I'm making it happen. I'm here. I'm present. I'm excited to talk to you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
I'm super excited to have you, Mr. Frazier the third in the building, CEO, creative director, filmmaker, advocate, fashion trendsetter. I mean, it's like the list can go on. Let's be clear. The list can go on. But
very clear.
I want to start, though, with this. It is, what are we, in May? It's like the year is already almost done already, which is crazy.
Yes.
How have you been, and how is this year going for you so far?
This year it's been mind-blowing. The things that have been happening have been really beautiful. I've been attracting great people, great opportunities, and immersing myself in the spaces that I love to occupy, like with community and culture. And so as an artist, this year has been pivotal for me because we were able to showcase my work and, tell the story. And I've been in the spaces and it's just been very well received. And we're only halfway. We're not even halfway through the year. And so many monumental things have been happening so far.
And what's interesting? I said the same thing the other day. I was out in Orange County and I was talking to my team and I was just talking about like full circle moments and just how alignment means a lot. And if you hear noise in the background, I'm excited because, guys, when I say full circle moment, I am recording live here in Hilltop, downtown LA, Issa Rae's, third location. And when I say full circle, this amazing person that we have on the phone was a part of Giants, and it was a series that was created by the talented James Bland and also on Issa Rae's YouTube channel. Look, full circle moment. I was just like, wait, talk about alignment.
You want to know what's crazy? I literally almost came to that Hilltop today.
See?
Like someone DM'd me and was like, I'm at Hilltop downtown. And I was like, maybe I should go down there and like sit and get everything ready. But I wanted to come to a quiet place so I can like give you this full interview and be present in this moment in solitude.
And I appreciate you for just being present. I always say that even to myself as we're just kind of navigating life and we're just running around like crazy. I think sometimes we do need to take that time just to be purposeful and just take a beat, as I tell people, just take a beat. So I want to start from the beginning. And it's interesting, right? So guys, he does not know the questions. And everyone that's been on the show, over 200 episodes, no one ever asked the questions. And what I love about that is because we can get their authentic, most crazy, most loving answers. And what we love about you is your smile. We love your smile. But let's start from the beginning. How was it being born and raised here in Los Angeles?
Oh my God. I talk about this all the time. And most of the time when I'm talking to people who are not from here, but I think that it is one of the biggest blessings in life, period, to be able to say that you were born and raised in Los Angeles, and not just LA, but South Central. I grew up in the Jungles area, which is right near Baldwin Hills. It's Baldwin Village, but iconically known as the Jungles. And the way that this area and this space has shaped me as a person and the culture that it brings between Black and brown communities and being a young Black queer boy in this space and just gathering so much, I think that it's one of the things that I don't take for granted at all. And most of us who are from LA don't take that for granted. I think that I would not have wanted to be born anywhere else, like in the world. I think being from Los Angeles was the best.
Well, and I've noticed that. Like, I've been here 5 months, and I have to say, you know, the people that I have built relationships with, you know, I like to live on the low a little bit. That's why I love when you were like, what coast are you on? I don't like the people to know where I'm at. I need to be everywhere. Okay. But besides that, I have to say, to your point, I mean, I've met some amazing people that are actually born and raised here in LA, and they've said the exact same compassion that you said as well. If you think about yourself as a child, describe yourself. Were you happy? Were you sad? How were you as a child being in LA?
You know what? When I was a kid, I was the most sensitive person in my family. Like, when I was growing up, I was a very jovial kid, like, always smiling, always tender, always crying. Like, everything impacted me emotionally. And being in this space and being in LA, I think that was my introduction. Like, my first audition happened here. I was in art classes and things when I was younger because I already knew that I was a storyteller, but I was being told that I would be like a doctor or something because I was so smart. And I would say primarily, like, by default, I was just very happy. Like, I was so... the innocence of a kid, like many children have that like type of innocence and that just happy-go-lucky, always smiling, but I was always smiling, and adults around me were always talking about my smile and my dimple. I only have one, and they would always just compliment that. Like, you have such a pretty smile, you have such a pretty smile, but there were oftentimes people would tell me to stop, because around that time, if you're a young boy growing up, like, people wanted you to be tough or appear tough, and so your face had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
And because I was such a tender person, I felt a lot more vulnerable than a lot of my other male counterparts. And so people around me did, from a protective standpoint, wanted me to toughen up a little bit, but I never lost the softness of my heart. Like, it's always been there, and it's still there today.
You know, I feel like the weather has been crazy since I've moved to LA in November. And I just think about all the beautiful days that I've had since I've been here. If you could describe a perfect day when you were young, what would that have been?
A perfect day when I was younger, let me see. I really used to love being outside, like at the park. We would go to the park and have picnics, or like the beach, and we would go to Venice Beach and just shop around at all the little markets. So that was one of the perfect days because, of course, there's like ice cream involved and sunshine. You know, back then, like, LA was only sunny. I mean, we had El Nino. That was like one big thing where it was raining nonstop. But beyond that, like, the perfect day was just spending time with my family and being young. And in LA, there's neighborhoods. And so when I talk about being from LA, I always talk about how, like, all of my best friends are Los Angeles natives too, because we have neighborhoods here, and we all grew up and we went to the same schools and things like that. So being outside and running and playing things like tag, hide and seek, those were the best, and like birthday parties at Ken and Han. So if you can combine all of those things, I would say, like, the perfect day would be a birthday party at Ken and Han, because you see everybody, you got cake, you got gifts, like, that is the perfect day.
I always think about when I was a child, you know, so many creative things that I would have done and wanted to do, let me say that. When you think about you and what you wanted to do when you were a kid and when you grew up, what did you really want to do when you were a child? When you grew up and you said, okay, when I grow up, this is what I want to be.
You know, I wanted to be... Okay, so what I wanted to be was in alignment with what I was told I was going to be. I was told that I was going to be a doctor because I was so smart, but I always knew that I had, like, that healing energy. Like, that's something that I've known since the beginning of time. I knew I was a healer, but I would always play with, like, my cousins and my sister's dolls and create these worlds. Like, literally, when I look back on my childhood, I'm like, dang, I was directing, like, I was setting up this whole world with these stuffed animals and these dolls and giving characters names and scenarios and speeding it up as if I was creating a movie. And I have one cousin, her name's Crystal. She will always be like, "You're moving too fast. You're moving too fast." Because one moment we'll be giving birth to a baby doll, and then the next moment they in school, and then they growing up, and
get married, everything.
I was like, I gotta go home in a couple hours. We gotta finish this story. And so when I was younger, I didn't know that there was space to be a creative in this way. All I knew was that the adults around me were telling me that I was going to go to school to be a doctor because I was so smart, and that was my trajectory. And it's really interesting how that was my trajectory up until I graduated college, and things panned out for me to infuse my creativity into the things I'm doing now. So when I look back on being a kid, I'm like, dang, I was really a storyteller back then, and I knew I wanted to be a healer, and now I am doing both at the same time.
I'm glad that you touched on skincare, because I remember reading something about you that I appreciated, and I think people of color really have to look at and say, wow, if he can do it, I can do it as well. You operate a coffee shop theme empowerment brand called Cafe de la Hue. And it really does emphasize the voice and the vulnerability, and it sets the tone at the table. And I think whenever we talk about skin, people of color always have these notions of, okay, well, how do I keep clear skin? What do I do? What do I use?
Yeah.
When you thought about creating really this brand, this emphasis, what was your mindset behind it?
So Cafe de la Hue started off as a bow tie line to raise money for AIDS Walk. And I was working in HIV prevention at a clinic fresh out of college. And I was using these bow ties to spread this message. And then over the course of time, the brand evolved into some apparel, and I developed a wardrobe style portfolio. And then I would go around and do public speaking engagements, and I would use my voice to empower. And then around that time, I was in a toxic relationship and was deciding that wasn't the best for me. And so I was figuring out in what ways can I take care of myself. And then I developed a self-care skincare line, Jealousy Skin, which will help improve scars. I had some problematic skin, hyperpigmentation, ingrown hairs and things like that, but I also have scars from that time that I wanted to heal that nothing was working on. And I did some research, and I started to see what works for me? I love organic and holistic things. And so what types of oils or butters or infusions can I do to create something that I can use on myself so that I can I was telling myself at the time, you're healing beautifully. And it was working. I noticed that the more I was affirming and speaking into my skin, the better and brighter it was becoming. The more I was loathing it or having resentment over the areas that were concerning to me, they were getting worse. And so it was causing more attention. And so, the whole vision behind Cafe de la Hue being an empowerment brand and having so many different branches is to extend, one, my creative capabilities, but two, to let people know that you're delicious from the inside out.
Hey!
You have to start from the inside. It has to be a mentality, and you have to believe it.
Let them come on.
And then these are tools that you can use to, help expedite that healing process. But yeah, Jealousy Skin has been such a blessing to me. Because it showed me that I have the power to be an alchemist and create something that really, really works for me, myself, and people in the community. They love the products.
Well, and I was going to say, I think about, us as creatives and how we really just kind of create spaces for other people like ourselves. And you created this amazing space. And what I love is just your amazing play on words when you think about Shades of Hue LLC. It was developed as a production company for cultural, entertainment, education, and consulting purposes. Why did you even create this LLC? Why did you it started out as a blog, but then it just manifested to this beauty. Why did you even create this?
Yeah, so Shades of Hue was my Tumblr back in the day.
Hey, come on, Tumblr. Come on.
You remember when Tumblr was this underground artistic creative space where you could go express yourself. And so they had all these mediums of expression. You can put photos, you can put quotes. You can write a blog. And I'm a writer. I would like all these beautiful things would happen to me. To this day, people tell me like some random things will happen. And I'll be like, dang, your life really is like a movie. Or every time I hang out with you, I feel like we're in a movie. And I'm like, the most interesting things happen. So I would go to Shades of Hue on my Tumblr, and I would blog all of these encounters and things. And so when I was fresh out of college, first department, I used to sit at this breakfast table that I had, and I had an idea to create a book or a story, and I wanted to call it Shades of Hue, and it would be myself, like, just compartmentalized into all the things that I do, because as you can tell, I do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And as I was preparing to make my first film, you know, I wanted to do things the legitimate way and to have a business set up so that I can, of course, hire our people. And so I ended up thinking, like, well, what would my business be called? And of course, I have like this creative consulting and production and all of these beautiful creative things that I do. There's many shades and many parts of who I am. Right now, I call it Shades of Hue. And Hue is my middle name. And when I was younger, I did not like it at all. But because everyone around me had middle names that they can use for something, I was like, I can't use Hue for anything. That just sounds awkward and weird. Until I grew up and realized, like, Hue has been the foundation of everything that I do.
There you go.
Cafe de la Hue, Shades of Hue, Hue styled you when I was doing wardrobe styling. There's so many different things. And so, yeah, Shades of Hue is just the umbrella brand, which Cafe de la Hue is under as well, that just allows me to express myself creatively and artistically.
So, you know, our listeners have followed you. You know, you have a great career. I think we think about all of your creative endeavors that you've been a part of, but I think a lot of people really miss the idea of how educated you are. Let me ask you a quick question. What did you get your degree in?
Say it one more time.
What did you get your degree in?
So I have a bachelor's of arts degree in sociology with a minor in psychology and a concentration in human services.
There we go. I want you to stop right there. When we found out that you had that degree and how important you were to just the service and servicing people, we saw that you really have helped so many people and created spaces for the LGBTQ plus IA community, for people of color, for men. And we had a couple of listeners, and even our team was like, wait, you've got to ask him these questions because we want to know. When you think about the degree that you earn, what do you think are the most pressing issues in public health today?
Oh my gosh. Access to resources, the authenticity of why people are in those spaces to serve. A lot of people are not in those seats and in those positions, like genuinely carrying integrity. That's a huge issue in public health. I also think that the way in which the messaging and the marketing is done, which is something that I specialize in as a consultant on a lot of boards. I do a lot of public health communications consulting, and I see how some of the messaging or some of the imagery can, one, leave people out, but also can be damaging or misleading. And I get the persuasion and how we want, you know, community to partake in certain things, but I also see that, like, there has to be a genuine care behind and within healthcare. Those are the things that I feel like are missing, especially as an observer, as a social observer, as a person who studies sociology and, you know, why a person does the things that they do depending on the external factors that impact them. Those are the things that I notice, because a lot of, in the spaces that I've worked, I won't say in public health in totality, but in the spaces that I've been in, I've noticed how, like, the whole person is not always taken into account when we're serving them. And that was what I gave to the field and to the clinics and the health spaces that I worked in. I will always be able to see this person as a whole being, to serve them from that place, from a client-centered perspective, and then see in which ways we can improve their well-being to get them to, we are trying to get them to make better decisions or whatever the case may be, just taking that full person into account.
What do you think is the most important thing for public health professionals to keep in mind when they're advising on policy and or working with the LGBTQ plus IA communities?
that everyone is not the same, and people's needs are different. People's needs are completely different. A lot of this is something that I highlighted in my film, especially in one of the main scenes where the main character, Rue, is a consultant on a board that is developing a research study. A lot of the people who participate in these studies do not account for the overall community. So there's a pocket of people, there's a sample, and of course you have to have that for research. But when you have a specific number of people or people on boards making those decisions that don't belong to the community they're serving, then you make such a mark. And that was something that was important for me to put in that film, because I feel like if you're taking, let's say a sample is 100 people, and there's so many of us in one specific city, and 100 people take a survey and they say, this is what we need and this is what works for us. And then an organization tailors their services to what those 100 people, what about all of the other
exactly
people? In this space and in this scene, we're talking about Black MSM, Black men who have sex with men. And, there's people on the board talking about nobody uses condoms, where this consultant is sitting here like, well, I use condoms and so do many of my friends. And there are STIs that are still very prevalent and all this other stuff. But if you make a survey, or you put out a survey and the majority of them say that they don't use condoms, but a few people say they still do, and if that majority determines whether or not free condoms are on the tables at the outreach events, then we're going to leave those people who actually use them out. And that was the message that I was trying to make, that not everyone is the same.
Yeah. Well, and I think, it's interesting because we're about to get into our Q&A that, we typically have people that have followed you and or have attended, an event that you were a part of. And before we get into that, I just want to let everyone know, I just want y'all to see that this is not just beauty. It's a whole bunch of brains in here as well, okay? To be clear. Let's talk about Rue's Blues. So you just had the opportunity to go back to my hometown, my folks out in Washington, D.C. Shout out to D.C. And you
shout out to D.C. Okay?
Didn't the people show up for you? Listen.
They welcomed me with open arms. I'm still floating. Like, I don't know if you can hear my energy.
Oh, yeah.
My energy and hear my excitement. But D.C. welcomed me with such open arms. It was the most lovely and most beautiful experience. I am so grateful for DC. They showed up, they participated, and really supported what I was doing. So I'm grateful, forever grateful.
Well, and let me say this. I'm grateful for you, and we're grateful for you because it's interesting. I get to go back to DC for Pride this year, and we are speaking for GPMC, Gay Professional Men of Color. And we're speaking and talking to different creatives and talking about creatives. Rue's Blues. My God, today. We got to explore relationships, support, lack of access to resources, health equality, health equity, integrity, really what life looks like in the attempt to grow. The first question I want to get right into it. The first question here comes from Tim. He's actually out of DC. Is what made you to decide to become an actor?
What made me decide to become an actor? My first audition was Lion King at the Pantages, and I bombed that. That was a whole experience. But, when I was younger, I don't know, it might be a lot of Southern listeners on the podcast right now, but everyone in my family talks about how, like, when I was younger, I would get up, turn the TV on, ask somebody to put on Johnny Taylor, and I would stand in the living room and perform. And I don't know why at that age, I mean, Granny, of course, but, I had no business at all thinking I was Johnny Taylor that young. But
come on, Johnny Taylor.
The energy that he got, and, like, how much people loved him, and I would stand there and I would perform and, like, dance and do all these things, and my family would just be so happy about it. And so, I would grow up and I would watch TV. Of course, we have the Magic Johnson Theater in our neighborhood, and I would go to the movies and see certain films. I think the film that really made me want to be an actor, I think it was This Christmas. And I remember how that ensemble cast, it was just so many beautiful people, and the story, like like how it evoked emotion. I love that. I love being able to portray and give energy and expression and connect with people, even if it's not just myself as Donnie, but as other characters where like I can present and resonate with someone. And so, yeah, that's what got me into wanting to be an actor. I wanted to tell stories, I wanted to perform, I wanted to express, and I wanted to connect with people.
The next question comes from Christian. He's out of Atlanta. Shout out to ATL. And he asks, Donnie, what was the most difficult thing about Rouge Blues?
The most difficult thing about Rouge Blues was having to revisit the areas and the parts of that film and that story that were really traumatic for me. I think there's layers of that film that were very true, and many people can feel them. But particularly when you have to like put yourself in a space to be vulnerable and revisit some things that were painful and then let them go. The letting go process afterwards, it's like, all right, you know, you dive into this character, you become this character, and you hold on to it, but you end up having to release that afterwards so that it doesn't stick with you. And so I started therapy right before, like as I was getting ready to film. I did a bunch of things. I went to the medical doctor, I went and got therapy, and just made sure that everything was okay going into it. And that itself was a big feat for me because, you know, I myself can be a little resistant to certain things, but I knew that I wanted to have my mental in order before I jumped back into that character so that those things did not stick with me. So it was a preparation process.
I have a question. Did Rouge Blues actually play at the Pan African Film Festival?
Yes.
Oh, How was that experience? I was there, and I was like, wait, I remember seeing this premiere, and I think you were almost at like the last few days when it was like wrapping.
Yeah, so we had a show on February 14th, Valentine's Day, which was perfect and ideal. Like, I manifested that because I wanted to always show this film on Valentine's Day because it's a major theme in it. And then we had another one on February 17th. So it was 1 week where we went on, I think, Tuesday and a Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that experience at the Pan African Film Festival?
It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. I was able to connect with so many people. The support was amazing. We got nominated for Best Narrative Feature.
Hey!
Phenomenal. And we were the only film in the United States to be nominated in that category, which was huge for me because of the content and the context of the content and how we open the film. The film is so raw.
It is.
It covers the exploration of sexuality and how that can spiral into addiction if it's not nurtured the right way. It explored Black love, where both characters are Black men, Black gay men, and it's not an interracial or a biracial or ethnically ambiguous couple that we usually see in media when it comes to Black love, Black queer love. And the lead is a dark brown skin Black queer man. And so, you know, these were things that were really important to me when I realized, like, what? When I woke up in New York and saw that email that we got nominated, I could not believe it because it was like, and then I saw which other films and which other places got nominated in that category as well. And I'm like, out of all these films, they saw something in mind for me to be put up for Best Narrative Feature. That was crazy for me.
I know, right?
And then also we gave people something to do on Valentine's Day. There were people, I was standing in line, taking everything in, about to get my popcorn, and the lady behind me, she's like, are you in the movie? Are you in the movie? And I'm sitting here thinking she's on the phone asking if somebody is like at their seat in the theater already. And so I turn around, she's looking at me like, are you in the movie? And I was like, oh yeah. I said, we're showing Rouge Blues in theater. I think it was like 14 or something like that. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to see that. And she didn't have anything to do for Valentine's Day. And she got online.
Wow.
She found the festival and she found our film out of all those films. And she said that she decided she was going to come see ours. And she really enjoyed herself.
If there was one sentence as we wrap up Rouge Blues, if there was one sentence that you could leave for people that, let's say, have not seen it and or still want to support you in some kind of way, what would you say?
I would say get ready for good time. The film is funny, it's deep, but we don't let you sink. And if you want to support, please find me and find out how we can get it in a city near you, or how we can get it in a space to where we can get you to see it, because it's so important and it's very entertaining. And then there's other ways that you can support as well.
I love it. So as we get ready to wrap our show, it's interesting because you already knew where we were going, and we've kind of curated the end of our show calling it our therapy session. And it's one of those moments that it really does make you think about just life and kind of how you really become center with yourself. So Donnie, what are you most grateful for?
Right now, I'm most grateful for my perspective. And I say that because there's so many things happening and so many things going on, but the power is in perspective. And the way you view things, the way you receive things, and what you choose to see is going to impact the life that you're creating. And so I'm grateful that I have a really healthy perspective on life, because it really guides me and it really takes me into the trajectory of where I'm supposed to be with my destiny. And I'm grateful for my angels, but for sure, perspective.
Listen, we're grateful for you. What's the biggest thing that you've ever given up?
Oh, what is the biggest thing? My pride.
Wow. Really?
Yep. Yes. Pride.
Hmm.
I'm like, what's the biggest thing I gave up? Pride. I had to learn how to ask for help several times, and that is not easy for me at all. At all. And so I had to let go of my pride and humble myself enough to ask for help when I needed it. Because I was about to think, like, okay, what did I have to give up? Something huge, like material things. Yeah, there was some tragic stuff that's happened, but when I think about, like, overall, all of it really sums up to letting go of pride, so that I can receive, so that I'm not in a place to where I don't feel like I can ask or be vulnerable for ask for the things that I need.
My last question, and I love this question because it really does make a lot of people just think about their life. Donnie, you will have been able to achieve so many things of creating so many films and movies and inspired so many people with so much creativity that you've been able to be a part of already, just in the early life that you've been able to live. But I think also with all of the people that you can touch, as far as with healthcare and policy, and your family that's extremely proud of you, friends that love you, what do you want your legacy to be?
That I was able to show that anything is possible, that I lived my life and performed in the art of possibility. And that's a workshop that I just did with middle and high school students. I was asked to do a workshop on filmmaking, and I titled this The Art of Possibility, because if Masterclass ever reaches out to me, that is what I would be teaching on. Because I think that anything is possible, and to be able to create the things in the ways that I have, and, you know, sometimes not having anything, but making something, and making something substantial, or attracting and aligning with the things that I desire, have come from me believing that those things were possible, even when I didn't know how it was going to happen. Yeah. And so I want to leave that with people. I want to inspire people in that way, to where anyone walking anywhere can believe that anything is possible, because there's a lot of people who lose hope and don't go after their dreams because they don't know how something's going to happen, or they don't have the resources. But anything is possible.
I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your service. But I think most of all, we, plural, we want to thank you for just every footprint you've been able to be a part of, because your story means something for that little black boy that is sitting at home in some city that wants to live and dream and aspires to doing some amazing things. And I promise you, your footprint means something. We appreciate you. I want everybody to make sure they support him. Let's be clear, this man has been featured in many, many publications, but his most recent one is our May 23 Impact Magazine A beautiful publication. I love the cover. The article was absolutely fantastic. And
Thank you.
absolutely, any last words you want to leave any of your listeners, any of your new listeners, and the people that may or may not even know you?
Yeah. One, thank you for all the support. Thank you for just being aware of the things that I'm doing, because that really does help. And that to understand that I am a beacon of love and light, and I'm spreading that and sharing that energy with everybody who's listening and everyone who supports, or anyone who might stumble upon anything that I'm doing. Know that you're going to step into that place and get a whole lot of love. And yeah, that's what I want to leave you with, that I love you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Listen, we love you. I want everyone to make sure they support Donnie Hue at Instagram, and that is DONNIEHUE. And then also make sure you check out Cafe de la Hue, and that is CAFEDELAHUE. And also, listen, we talked about it today. Check out Ruse Blues, and you can also support at his Instagram at ruse.blues, and that is ROUXS.blues, BLUES. And of course, check out, support, donate, ask questions at ruseblues.com. Thank you. I appreciate you. And again, guys, as we say at the end of our show, stay positive, but stay creative. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.